Hello everyone and welcome back to round 3 of our F225 Leo Fornaroli career mode. Yes, we return this weekend here to Sakir and the Bahrain Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the races that went live last weekend, I would highly recommend going back and checking them out. We kickstarted the year out in Albert Park. The sprint race was very much a learning curve for us, and then the main event also featured some changeable weather, so it was a fascinating first weekend inside the championship. We did, however, get our first points on the board though, 6 to be exact, which currently leaves us P9 in the drivers table at the moment. But yeah, as we return to Bahrain though, I'm hoping we're going to have a little bit more confidence and a little bit more speed. Of course, if you're new, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. We are getting closer and closer to 150,000 subs at the moment. And as well, obviously, if you want early access to the main event tomorrow, obviously with the feature race, right now, you can click the join button down below and you get early access as well. But yeah, without further ado though, let's return here to Bahrain. I'm hoping, maybe, just maybe this weekend, we can get our first podium for Invicta. Well, I really do think Bahrain is going to be a tricky track to get hooked up this weekend. It's normally one where the AI are pretty good anyway on F125, and, well, just especially with a couple of the tricky traction zones, I think in this session they are going to be very, very good. But of course, as always, we need to try and make sure that we get the car inside the top 10 in qualifying. Didn't manage that last time out in Albert Park, but hopefully we will do it today then, as Pepe Marti immediately jumps up to the front of the order. Oh, just not quite carrying the confidence on the brakes through those first couple of turns, and immediately then dropping towards the bottom of the field there. Really attack the curbs though through the chicane as we plunge down the hill. Of course, only one chance to try and get it hooked up, only one opportunity to try and get yourself as high up the order as you can. I could be tempted to run like short qualifying or something like that, but honestly F2 is pretty frantic anyway, so I quite like doing the one-shot qualifying, because it does generally mean the grid order is a little bit more mixed up as well there, as it is still Pepe Marti in that Campos car, currently setting the benchmark then, as we are slowly reeling him in as we head towards Sector 3 here. Early on in the lap we were way down the order, but as we've got towards the end of it, we are getting further and further up. Purple through that middle sector. That's exactly what we want to see as we try and carry the speed out of the penultimate corner. One more turn to go, but Pepe Marti has dominated this session up to this point there. Just make sure I don't brake too early, too late through the final turn. Carry the speed on the run back around to the line then. Will this be P8 on the grid? I think it's going to be. I'm just happy we're inside that top 10. Well, there we go then. Pepe Marti pole position here by just 1/10 of a second ahead of Arvid Lindblad. Campos will be very, very happy with that front row lockout there. Rotoma Miata up in P3 ahead of our teammate Roman Stanek. Oli Goethe, Victor Martins, Kushmini and myself just ahead of our fellow Italian in Gabriele Mini, and Rafael Villagomez there rounding out your top 10. Max Esterson just misses out ahead of Richard Verschoor, and then as you can see further down the order, of course, yeah, you can see all of our other drivers. Kushmini, though, don't forget, leading the World Championship as we head into this weekend, ahead of Luke Browning, and constructors-wise as well, Dams ahead of ART. But yeah, down at Invicta, both cars inside the top 10. We've got a huge opportunity as we head into the sprint.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint race then. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Plenty of opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit for these young F2 drivers to show what they can do. The best passing opportunity right up there at turn 1, and we should see plenty of action there. But there's another not long after at turn 4. There are 9 right-handers and 6 left-handers, and the possibility that we could see some flat spots at the tightest of those left-handers, that's turn 10. Welcome to the Formula 2 commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alex Brundle joins us as ever for this. Alex, it's a sprint race. How's the format change going to affect the mentality of the drivers?
Well, you've got the grid reversed, giving some drivers who wouldn't normally get it the opportunity to take a win or a podium home. They're going to be looking to snatch that opportunity if at all possible.
Well, we heard Alex Brundle mention it then on that grid rundown, of course, that, you know, drivers are going to be looking, especially in this reverse grid race, to try and sneak a podium or something like that. I said this weekend I want to try and bag our first podium, and we line up P3, ready for the Bahrain sprint race. 10 laps ahead of us then, sorry, 12 laps ahead of us on these harder compounded tyres. Let's see what we can do today then, as the 5 red lights are on here in Bahrain. Oh, no time at all held there on the lights. And it is going to be lights out, and away we go then, as a lot of wheel spin off the initial launch. Rafa Villagomez holding off ahead of Gabriele Mini down in towards turn 1. I will just try and stay on the outside there. Often, kind of all the accidents seem to happen towards the apex of that first corner there, so just trying to avoid that as best as I can. As championship leader Kushmaini right up behind me there. Victor Martins in that ART, or up in P5. But Villagomez, yeah, trying to build up a nice early lead here. If you can break the DRS on lap 1, it can be really, really useful later on in the race. But first time running then on these harder compounded tyre. Obviously, they can be quite sensitive in these races as well. Obviously, small correction, things like that, can always upset the balance of these F2 cars. So I'm running very, very wide down through turn 9 and turn 10, and that immediately is going to be a track limits warning there, so got to be careful with that one as we try and get back on the circuit. And apparently, I've got an illegal overtake on Kushmaini. He's not even going to try and go back for it there down in towards the next corner, but we will let him by and hopefully try and be really, really cheeky and stay alongside the Dams car there as we make our way up the hill. And all that has done then is given our top 2 quite the breakaway up at the front of the order. Feel it was a little bit harsh to get 2 warnings in one corner there, you know, down at turn 9 and turn 10, especially when I lost time. This is going to be the big one, though, especially when we aren't in the DRS of those cars in front. We are going to be very, very vulnerable back in towards turn 1 there. See Kushmaini actually not able to get any kind of speed over me or in towards that first corner there, as you've kind of got to try and drift this car around just a little bit through those opening couple of corners. But yeah, Villagomez 2.3 seconds up the road already. If we could get Kushmaini out of the DRS range, that would be fantastic. But I need to try and close back in on Gabriele Mini just in front of me here. See, we have had a few swappers and moves at the start. Sometimes these F2 races, though, kind of all bubble to the surface right towards the end. Other times, you've got to make progress early on. But it seems like we have the pace through Sector 2, but Sector 1 and Sector 3, I'm definitely still struggling to match the AI there. But what is Rafael Villagomez going to set as a new fastest lap of the day? Mini does a 41.2. We run a 41.4 there. Let's look at that immediately. Gabriele Mini to the outside in towards turn 1. Will we see Villagomez hang on as we're coming under pressure from Kushmaini? Both BWT back drivers trying to make moves early on there as well. We'll run very, very wide there. Slam the door shut on Kushmaini as Rafael Villagomez just able to control the pace up at the front of the order. But if those two keep battling, it will allow us to close in. Again then, Gabriele Mini, he's not done with this battle. Again, he's going to try the outside on Rafael Villagomez down in towards turn 1. It will give him the inside off the exit of turn 2. But I really think what matters is who gets the DRS as we make our way back up the hill. Again, I think that is Villagomez, that he's kind of just timing it so that Mini is ahead at the detection point. But if we can get back inside the 1 second zone, I'll be rather happy. Not only that, but we are bringing Kushmaini and Victor Martins along for the journey here. If we could get both Invictors up inside the top 6, though, that would be fantastic here. And obviously worth some big points. Of course, we worked fairly well together last weekend. You know, one of the big jobs, though, early on, you know, I'm sure there is a little bit of kind of trying to get the engineers on your side in Formula 2 as well. You know, making sure that you showcase yourself to be the clear number 1 in the team, especially if you're in a championship fight. Occasionally, right towards the end of the season, you know, the team will start using the second driver to help you out a little bit more. But just hanging on outside of the 1 second zone there, as will we see Gabriele Mini go for it again then on Rafael Villagomez. This is the great thing about Formula 2, where the racing is quite sharp, quite frantic. You've got to try and go for the moves there, as Mini, the inside line this time around, trying something different in towards turn 1. I believe, though, again, it was Villagomez that gets that DRS off of the corner. But this time around, Mini has made the move happen. He's got fully in front there as Rafael Villagomez trying to have a look up around the outside, up at the top of the circuit. But Gabriele Mini finally through in that Prima. Well, this is critical then as we get to half distance here. We are inside the range now of Rafael Villagomez. Do feel like, Australia was very much kind of the learning curve for us, but I feel like I'm getting up to speed in this Formula 2 car as we try and get that that DRS even open, I should say, on the run back in towards turn 1. Just don't think Villagomez has quite got the speed to match Gabriele Mini here. Of course, the weird thing is, because Villagomez took pole, you would in theory expect Mini to be quicker in P2, because obviously it's a reverse grid, but yeah, is Villagomez just going to be able to act as a bit of a rear gunner for him? If we can get ahead of Rafael, then we've definitely got some good speed to try and go quicker than Mini as well. But often, we see it all the time. We've got an instant down at turn 1. What on earth has happened? Well, this would appear to be Dino Beganovic then down at turn 1. I mean, it's so easy to do in these cars. Oh, Sebi Montoya, what is he doing? After going for a spin last weekend there, he's just driven straight into him. I mean, Dino Beganovic made the original error, I understand that, but Kian Shields sits in behind, and so does Sami Megatunif. But yeah, what was Sebi Montoya trying to do? Well, there you go, Gabriele Mini immediately another new fastest lap of the day then, as it seems like it's going to be a battle of the Italians here. So yeah, that first time Mini's had the clear air up at the front of the order. Rafael Villagomez, I mean, he was almost out of the DRS range there as getting a big swapper on out of turn 1. I thought for a second we might be able to get Kushmini out of our DRS range, potentially leave him vulnerable to Victor Martins a little bit further behind, but not with lines like this. It is so easy just to get these cars out of their comfort zone.
Affect our tyres, so try to get past.
I've said it before, but it always feels like with the F2 cars that you've kind of got to drive them just under the limit, because overstep that mark and they become terrible. Here we go, just looking at the timing tower. I think Villagomez has lost the range now. So, yeah, didn't take very long before Gabriele Mini has been able to exploit that gap and get away there, as again Kushmini will probably be under pressure from Victor Martins, as we've got to try and up the speed now. We've got to try and get past Rafael as soon as we can, but we've got to be careful with it as well, because obviously we need to try and make sure that we immediately get inside the range of Mini up in front there. But Rafael Villagomez starting on the pole there, but has really struggled early on. Was able to hold up Gabriele Mini for just a couple of laps before inevitably the Prima driver able to get around the Van Amersfoort. But yeah, not able to find a way through that time round. But we are extending that gap to the cars behind. Starting lap 9 then of this race, Rafael Villagomez, he has got nothing that he can do to try and defend from us there, with the DRS to the outside on the run in towards turn 1. Of course, once again, Villagomez, well, he's going to be cheeky with it to make sure that he gets the DRS back up the hill. And as we get a bit squirrely out of those first couple of corners, though, I think, yeah, Martins and Kushmini having a bit of a battle further behind as well. But we have finally navigated Rafael, and now we need to try and see if we can close in that second gap to Gabriele Mini. Currently, it's an Italian 1-2 here, but can we swap the order? But a bit of a shame then for Gabriele Mini. It's actually just been Dino Beganovic. Now obviously he's had to pit. He's bolted on a set of the super soft tyres and has actually taken the fastest lap. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head whether if you're outside the top 10, whether you're still entitled to that fastest lap bonus point in Formula 2. Well, obviously I'm sure we'll find out come the end of the race. But yeah, Gabriele Mini, nothing we can really do against him at the moment, as it seems like Villagomez might drop back into the clutches of Victor Martins pretty quickly. But with 2 laps to go, we have basically just got to try and hang on for this spot there, as getting a little bit ragged through that final corner, desperately trying to keep the speed up. Well, 1 more lap to go then here from Bahrain, and it is always good if you do end up in some clear air, just to use these final few laps to get some momentum, find a bit more confidence, and learn what you can ready for the main event tomorrow, because of course that is where the big points are going to be available here. But, you know, if you're able to get out in front, can't remember who it is, oh, Pepe Marti, isn't it? our pole man tomorrow. If he or Arvid Lindblad is able to get in front and get away at the start, they are in for a fantastic drive, because ultimately, the DRS is critical here. If you can't stay in the range of the car in front, it is going to be very, very difficult for you to try and close back in that gap there. As you just see, whoa, Gabriele Mini pulling away by a few extra tenths a lap over me at the moment. Really does seem to have the pace underneath him there, as we almost completely take ourselves out of contention on this final lap. Luckily, still got a bit of a gap over Rafael Villagomez nonetheless. And trying to get the power down out of the hairpin here. A big gap back then to Victor Martins, who I believe is still battling it out with Kushmaini. And that maybe has given Villagomez the room he needs to breathe on this final lap. But we saw it last weekend from Kushmaini in the feature race. This time around, though, Gabriele Mini, it has been a dominant drive in the sprint. Got past Villagomez nice and early on after a good little bit of dicing around in the early stages, but since then has never looked back. It is going to be Prema back on top here in Formula 2 after a tough year in 2024. Gabriele Mini will claim the first win of his F2 season there. Leo Fornaroli, we will bag our first podium.
Yes, mate, I'll take that. Well done. We're really happy with the podium down here, so well done. Yes.
This has been some performance from the Italian. What a victory from Gabriele Mini.
Well, the sprint win's not where the big points are handed out, but it sets them up well for tomorrow and gives a lot of confidence for the longer feature.
Well, we've had a thrilling race, and now taking their place on the podium, it'll be a familiar sight to you. It's another F2 success for Prema.
Well, there we are then. Gabriele Mini, a dominant drive here today to claim the victory in the sprint. 3.7 seconds clear. I mean, fastest lap-wise, we were pretty close, actually, on speed when all is said and done. Rafael Villagomez, he'll be a little bit disappointed, I'm sure, not to take home the victory. Just ahead, though, of Victor Martins and Kushmaini. Roman Stanek gained a place from Oli Goethe, and Rotoma Miata was the only driver inside your top 10 that finished exactly where they started. Richard Vasseur and Amory Cordial both able to move their way through ahead of the Campos drivers, so have Campos potentially put all their eggs, in the one lap basket, I should say. But yeah, take a look then. What has that done to our World Championship? It does mean Kushmaini still at the top of the table now, ahead of Martins and Mini. We are up to P7 though, ahead of Joshua Dirksen, so pretty happy with that one. And Invicta leap all the way up to P6 there, as it is still damns ahead of ART and Prema. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon ready for the feature.